Drive Podcast.
All right, welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Drive Podcast. This is episode 201. It is one after 200. I mean, 200 was a shit show, but I think 201 is going to be even worse. Maybe a pile of shit in a shit show. But this is your boy East Coast Trev, and I'm joined with my good buddy, Mr. Madman Mardick.
What up, man?
What's up, bro? Where are you, dude? What are you doing?
Undisclosed location, deep in the underground.
Oh, Jesus. What? You got a cute guy well, all right, I didn't mean to say that, but you got a guy sitting next to you. Who's
familiar face, familiar voice.
What up, dudes?
Oh, man. Who's your friend next to you?
This is Drew Walter, aka Boneyard.
Oh, jeez. This ought to get good then.
So, long story short, I came to Saddle Up Saturday, and I don't think I've left since because I've pretty much been living here ever since.
Been hanging out over there? What's going on? Anything new?
Just living the dream, baby.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, let's do a little bit of house cleaning, dude, and then we can kind of rip right into it. What do you say?
Let it rip, potato chip.
All right. First off, we are presented by Huntworth Gear, huntworthgear.com. They are, you get more for less. Some of the best hunting gear on the market. Nor'easter Game Calls, nor'eastergamecalls.com. If you haven't gotten over to nor'eastergamecalls.com and got yourself a grunt tube for this upcoming deer season, you probably should. They're not going to last all that long. You will see them up in hunt stock. Like the second weekend in August, we'll be up there. And Mark will be there.
I gotta stop you there because apparently you can't get away with shit on a podcast because you got all these fact checkers out there. So Brad Jarvis reached out to me today and asked me if I said the wrong dates last week on purpose. Of course I didn't. I'm just a retard. So it's August 11th, 12th, and 13th. Brad.
Thanks,
and
Brad.
Just so you know, I'm going to reach out to Pat Guyette. I'm going to try to get Brad on the main stage Sunday to do some midget wrestling. So it's in the works.
I don't think he can do midget wrestling. He's like 6'6", 299 pounds, so he's probably not going to do much.
We'll just do like 5 midgets versus him and call it a day. So it's in the works.
It's funny. I'll tell a midget story real quick before we get back to what we were doing. But the funniest thing about midget wrestling is that those guys literally travel around the world. Like there is like a cult of midgets that literally, they live all over the world, and they'll have, dude, there's a place by you, Pistol Pete's. They have actual midget wrestling competitions that are there, and these guys come from all over just to wrestle there.
And the funny part is they probably make more money than all three of us combined.
This is probably truthful.
When I drive by Pistol Pete's every day on my way to work, I never even thought about ever going in my life. But my question is, when they win like the title and they win the belt, is it like a wristwatch?
I'm not really sure what it is, but it's definitely out of control.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Anyways. All right. We're off of that. So Brad, we were gonna get you on the main stand at Hutstock, wrestling midgets. Also Latitude Outdoors, latitudeoutdoors.com. If you guys haven't gone over and check out their new stuff, they got a ton of great stuff coming to the market. Doing some great things over there at latitudeoutdoors.com. Make sure to use the promo code Outdoor Drive. I think it's Outdoor Drive. It's just Outdoor Drive. Yeah, because then you save 15%. Also, Bowhunters United, bowhuntersunited.com. If you guys have not signed up for Bowhunters United, you might want to go and do so. They are the advocates for the people in the bow hunting world. I mean, they advocate for us through Congress, through all of these new things coming up. They do action alerts, so on and so forth. And I think, I'm not mistaken, but if I can figure it out, I think that you get magazines from them, because we can't, a bunch of us got magazines, and I think that they came from them, but don't quote me on that. I don't really know. But the link is below for all those places. You guys can go and check them out. The links, you can just click on those and get to those things there. And then let's break it on over. Let's get the news from your cruise with our buddy, Mr. Mike Salter.
All right, guys, why don't we buckle up and see what's going on in the world of news with Mr. Mike Salter.
Hey everyone, we're going to start this one off with a bunch of legislative updates. First in New York, where a bill I previously reported on that would ban hunting contests has passed the Senate and has moved to the Assembly's Codes Committee. You can still take action to voice your opposition to this bill directly through the National Deer Association's Action Alert on their website. Now in Maine, where H1204A has been signed by the governor, which will align crossbow hunting laws with the with those governing archery hunting and regulate that no discharge of a firearm, archery equipment, CO2-powered weapon, or other weapon within 300 feet of any picnic area, designated camping area, parking area, building, shelter, or boat launching site. Also in Maine, S70, the Senate accepted the committee report on this bill, which eliminates provisions relating to annual reports to the Joint Standing Committee of the legislature having jurisdiction over inland fisheries and wildlife matters on deer and moose management. And also Bill S732A, which supports outdoor education by establishing the Outdoor School for All Students program, which is currently in the House. Now to Michigan, and S32, which is in the House and would modify the penalty for failing to report a deer harvest or retain a deer harvest confirmation number. Then in Nevada, S311, which would require the Board of Wildlife Commissioners to establish a program to allow a person to transfer his or her tag to hunt a big game mammal to certain persons, and requires that a course of instruction in the responsibilities of hunters to be available online. This one is waiting for the governor's signature currently. Then in New York, S3351, which would eliminate sporting license fees for honorably discharged disabled veterans, and is currently in the Senate Committee on Rules. And also in New York, S5802 has passed the Senate and is in the Assembly, which would allow for the hunting of deer by individuals 16 and older with crossbows in a special archery season. Also in New York, 5542 is pending in the Assembly, which prohibits deer and bear traps, and that no salt licks shall be made, set, or used upon land inhabited by deer or bear, except when a certified nuisance wildlife specialist provides that such activities are in furtherance of site-specific deer management plan. Now in New Hampshire, where S14 is pending concurrence in the Senate, which adds a definition of game camera and permits the use of game cameras to take or attempt to take a game animal or fur-bearing animal in the state. Now to Virginia, where as of July 1st, it is now illegal to feed or attract deer in Augusta County. This is due to a positive CWD test within 50 miles of the county line. Food plots do remain legal for use in that county. Now to Oklahoma, where a second whitetail deer has tested positive for CWD about 15 miles east of Woodward. A couple weeks ago was the first one in the state. Now here's the second one. The state is still monitoring and will provide hunters with additional information if necessary as the seasons approach. Now to Montana, where the FWP and DNRC worked with the legislature to simplify licensing requirements on state lands. The agencies have consolidated the conservation license and the state lands recreational use license into one annual conservation license supporting the maintenance of places like fishing access sites and WMAs. So as of July 1st, those accessing state lands will be required to have a conservation license. And those hunters, trappers, and anglers who have already purchased licenses and tags for this year already have it, so no worries there. Special recreation use license is still required for trapping, outfitting, and special events on state trust lands. And Montana state parks do not require this conservation license. Lastly, an opportunity for anglers in Vermont. The state will be holding several Fish with a Warden events. The event is designed for those with prior fishing experience, but any experience is welcome. And you will need to bring your own equipment and have a license. Pre-registration is required on the Fish and Wildlife Department's website. The events will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. The first one is today at Knights Point State Park in North Hero. Then July 20th at Shaftesbury State Park in Shaftesbury. August 3rd at Riker Mills State Forest in Groton. And August 17th at Little River Dam in Waterbury. Also, don't forget to click on the Outdoor Drives affiliate link in the episode description to sign up for Bowhunters United today to protect and expand your bow hunting rights. So as always, if you have any information to send along to me, it'd be greatly appreciated. Reach out to me at Mike Salter on Facebook or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram. And with that, enjoy the rest of your ride.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Bowhunters United. You guys make sure to sign up in the link below. All right, guys. Now we can get on to the show of what is going to happen here because, you know, can we not, please? Can we not?
I don't know.
Drew, do you see what he's trying to do there, bro?
Yeah, he's trying to poke. He's poking, man.
He's poking. He knows it. Some of you may or may not understand that. So, hey, for everybody that's been living under a rock, Drew, why don't you introduce yourself, man? Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do, my friend?
What's up, guys? I'm Drew Walter, owner, operator, Wild Edge Incorporated, right out East Haddam, Connecticut. Mobile climbing equipment, everything you need to hunt, climb a tree. So, yeah, that's where we're at. You can find us anywhere on social media, Wild Edge Inc. And yeah, just knowing these boys, we go way back.
Yeah.
Long time.
Boneyard. We call him the old boneyard, man. One of the reasons and one of the things that we kind of wanted to have you on the podcast was just kind of talk because, I mean, you're like an absolute killer, and the things that you do in your life and like just revolve around, I think of you as like a legend of the deer woods because like you've taken more whitetails than most human beings have, and I know that you stay humble when it comes to that, but like you did it professionally for a very long time. And I mean, I'd love to hear some really cool stories or whatever you have to, offer. Or you want to tell a little bit of background kind of that. We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Just recently, well, I'd just be straight up honest, I got sober over a year ago. So like in that time, like the first year of sobriety, it was like the hardest year of my life. But the cool part was like actually being able to slow down, break life down, simplify life, really focus on the important things, obviously my family, but really realizing all the shit that I actually did, and the cool stuff you've done in life. I'm 33, but I feel like I've been around a lot longer. But I was very fortunate to basically be raised by, he was like a father to me, the owner of White Buffalo Incorporated. And I was a suburban deer. We specialized in suburban deer management. And basically I was a sharpshooter for them. So we were contracted all over the country, mainly stateside. And, to get the gist of it, we would be hired to go into like a suburb of a city or in city limits where you can't discharge a firearm. There is no hunting. So we would go in and euthanize, take, for example, Town and Country, Missouri, suburb of St. Louis. We'd go in and, 2-3 weeks, we killed, 300 to 400 deer. All donated soup kitchens, Hunters for the Hungry, all the meat was. So it was really cool. My job was, I was killing deer for a living. That brought me got to do some cool island projects, eradication projects in Santa Rosa, Catalina Islands, off the coast of California. I lived in Guam for a couple months doing Philippine deer and pigs.
Monkeys.
Yep, did some monkeys, messed around with some horses. We did some really cool shit. It was a fucking blast. It was literally the dream job for any kid, any guy like us. But the only bitch was basically lived in a hotel, around the world with a couple older dudes. So it was hard to have the family life that I wanted. So I, for example, I got married and basically said bye to my wife, and I was just hop, skip, jumping all around the world for 8 months. So kind of big circle. What brought me back here was Wild Edge. Basically, what kind of living can I establish to stay around and have the farm life, family life. I'm blessed right now. I got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and another little one on the way. So
congrats, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. 5-year-old going on 35.
Yeah. Just the typical, just boys, man. They're wild. It's going to be paid back. So anything you guys want to know about the past, I mean, I can dive into some shit. The coolest shit in the world. The craziest part was just separating yourself from hunting and work. So when I went and killed deer, I was not hunting. There was nothing to do with hunting. We were, professional sharpshooting. Every deer was shot in the head, euthanized right away. But then we got into some cool projects doing in the city limits, doing basically sterilization projects. So sterilizing the does, doing overectomies. So we had a mobile vet station. Basically, I'm running around neighborhoods tranquilizing deer. It was a fucking blast, putting the deer in a stretcher, bringing them back to a mobile vet station, doing surgeries. And, that brought us to Staten Island, doing the basically neutering all the bucks. Wildlife.
Now, there's a lot of negative that comes along with that because, like, you hear and you talk to a lot of people, I mean, I do all the time, and they'll be like, oh, they had these sharpshooters come in or whatever the case may be. But I think that a lot of people don't understand the pluses and minuses to it. And there's no like hatred towards hunters, right? But like the thing is, if you had every Tom, Dick, and Harry running around these urban areas, a lot of things could go wrong. That's why they hire professionals to do such a thing, because then it's put into a negative light for the hunters, where the sharpshooters can go in there and eradicate these animals properly and not have to worry about the bad things that potentially could happen as hunters. Like if you had an archery hunter go into there, then you have dead deer. I mean, they tried this down in Greenwich, zones 11 and 12 here, and they had a TV show about it, Chasing Tails, and they would like literally shoot deer, and they would go in people's pools and this, that, and the other thing. So there is a lot of negative that comes along with what you did. But there's a reason why cities do such a thing.
Well, and it's so simple. And we've done the studies. I've trained numerous hunters. I've trained cops. I've trained a ton of people through the company. And I'll just put it this way: hunters cannot do it. 100%. They cannot lower a population. I don't care what the environment is. They can't stabilize or lower a population. If you could handpick out of 1 million hunters the correct amount of superstars, then yeah, it could be done in the right training situation. But the fact is the mortality rate for the average hunters that are trained and doing this stuff is 75%. So 75% of the animals shot or mortally wounded, but not recovered. So it's sickening. But as simple as break it down to this: as a hunter, if you say, okay, all you bow hunters, let's let you loose in the city, just go hammer out these deer. All right. Let them in. Well, okay. So if they can use bait, they can do whatever they want. As simple as baiting. They dump a pile of corn, 20 deer come into that bait pile. They put one arrow through one deer. The deer once that one deer gets hit with the arrow, they all run, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you just educated 19 deer if you recover that one deer. Our mentality was if 10 deer come in, 0 deer leave. So that's shooting them in the head. When you shoot a deer, so you shoot down the age structure. So does are priority. Oldest, lack of better terms, the cuntiest doe, the bitchiest doe that's acting the cuntiest. I mean, she goes first. So you start working down. So the second you shoot an animal in the head, they drop to the ground and you have that couple seconds of pure confusion. They heard a loud bop, bang, pop. It's a suppressed 223, little 40 grain frangible bullet enters the head. They drop. So say it's a doe with 2 fawns. You shoot the doe first, the 2 fawns will literally stop. They may bound back a couple of feet, stop. Look, mom, what are you doing? Why aren't you running, mom? What's going on? Boom, you shoot the fawns. So it's as simple as that. So if you could train hunters to be shooting deer in the head at night with tack lights over bait, it is possible, but the average hunter, no, it's just not going to work. So yeah, we fought, it wasn't the antis that were our biggest threat. It was the hunters, like the hunter harassment. Cause they, the places that we did shoot where you could also hunt, obviously we were looked at like bad guys, because everyone that hunts wants to go in the woods and see 25 deer every time they hunt, no matter where they hunt.
Right.
In a stable population, that's just not going to happen.
So, and one of the things that I kind of, in talking to you would know, but like the thing is that you weren't technically hunting, you were working. Like, and to break that down, like trophy deer that were shot in these urban areas. And that's probably why you have a lot of problems with those urban guys or those hunters in those urban areas, because there is giant whitetails in those areas.
Oh God.
But those antlers are destroyed. They're not even, you can't do anything with them.
Oh, and as a hunter, it was sad because any shed you found got, turned in. Every antler deer that went to the state butcher, they were all basically put through a chipper. So it's kind of depressing, but that was so they couldn't be treated as a trophy animal. Some were donated to schools and colleges and research places and all that. But yeah, it was because we were working. And you have to put yourself in such a mentality. You have to train your brain. I can't get excited when I'm head shooting a deer from 30 feet in the air with a high-powered rifle in the backyard of a $5 million house, surrounded by houses and people watching me. So it's just high-pressure professional work that, basically we pretended like we were poachers and everything we did was illegal. That was the motto. So you never got caught. Even if everything you did was 100% legal and clean, you don't want to bring attention to it. We didn't wear camo. Until I fought that to the teeth, because Carhartts are just not that flexible and not that great in a tree. So I said, I'm going with the best of the best. So I suited myself up with Sitka head to toe because I literally lived in a tree and in the wintertime, killing deer all day long. And you have a group of deer come in, say 6 deer come in, you shoot them all. You immediately get down from your tree, grab your head bags and zip ties and your deer drag, run out, put a head bag on them because their brains are now missing. Call it canoe top. You just blew the top of their head off. So the frangible bullet enters. And the whole point is it doesn't exit for safety reasons. So it goes in. So frangible just explodes. So you get that pop. So you put a head bag on them so all that shit doesn't get all over the beautiful manicured yard. Like I'm talking, picture the most suburban neighborhood you can ever imagine, and then take a 1/4 acre backyard, put me 30 feet in a tree, and that's where I'm killing deer.
Wow.
So you run down, grab the deer, and you get them off that bait as quick as you can. So you're running, hustling, sweating. You hide them behind your tree so other deer don't get alarmed. You're on the ground. You're wiping up blood, making sure your bait is good. And all these deer were baited. They've already been baited for months. Regiment, all the same exact amount of corn per ratio of deer, everything at the same time by the same person with the same truck with the same bucket of corn. Like we train these deer. So you get the deer off the bait as quick as you can, clean everything up, hop back up in the tree, wait for the next group. They usually come in waves. So it was, so that's the whole reason, my point of getting into, I wanted that merino wool. I wanted the synthetics. I wanted, can't wear cotton and be, working in 10-degree weather and running up and down a tree, dragging deer. And, I'm talking like working in Minnesota, go grab a mature doe, dude. It's like grabbing a 200-pound buck around here. It's nutty.
Right. Now, you started talking about baiting and regiment, and it's always been fascinating to me because being able to, have conversations with you about it. Like, can you kind of break down the regiment of what you were doing and how people can transpire for those that are bait hunters, and to make people realize that bait hunting isn't that easy?
Yeah. So, and I love baiting. I bait deer. I've killed, but I think I've killed one mature buck over bait. Put it that way. So here's what happens, and
other than in the suburban,
correct.
Urban
I'm talking
area, right?
When I'm saying shooting deer, I'm always talking recreational hunting, like we all do. Anytime I talk about killing deer, I'd say work. So the problem is, like East Haddam, it became legal to bait here, all the southern shore zones, right? I'm zone 12, so 11, 12, you can bait. So what problem is now, and every parcel of private land that you can bait on is, from 2 acres to 10 acres. They're small pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest pieces around here, there's like 2 land masses around here that are private that are 300 acres. Everything else is 5 to 20, right? So now you take a square mile, and if every single private land dude is dumping a pile of corn, a 50-pound bag of corn, the Friday before the opening day or whatever, the day before opening day, what's going to happen? They're doing it a week before, 2 weeks before. They're just dumping an entire 50-pound bag of corn. First of all, now these deer are educated to the corn. There's corn everywhere. So the first thing they do is they start hitting it at night because they're not, if you dump 50 pounds of corn, that's what we would call bulk baiting. So when we first enter a bait site, when we're working, we would bulk bait the deer. You dump 200 pounds of corn in a pile, 100 pounds of corn. They consume the corn. You're just telling the deer, hey guys, the corn's here. So they go, oh, sweet. I know where there's corn. Then after 2 weeks, you drop it back. You portion it to 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds per deer at the most. So you ration them, and then you start spreading out into little piles because you want them around, 20 yards from bait. But the key is that's that portion of bait, whatever it is, per however many deer you have in the area. You put a camera out, put some bait out, and try to figure out how many deer you have. So if you have 12 deer, maybe you put 18 to 20 pounds down. But the key is we would bait these bait sites, we'd have our bait routes, and they would get hit at the same time every single day. You don't skip a day. So that's professional work. So the deer know, they hear that truck, they hear the bucket shaking, or they just know at 3 o'clock that's bait there. And then the other deer at the other site know at 4:30 bait's going to be there. So they have to rush to get there because it's portioned. If they don't get there first, the bait will all be cleaned up. If you dump 50-pound bag of corn, they don't give a fuck when they get there. They got all night to get there because deer can't eat 50 pounds in a couple hours.
Mm-hmm. There's always food there.
Bring it to the average hunter who just runs in the woods and dumps a bag of corn, puts a camera on it with a ladder stand next to it. You have a trio of just absolute obviousness of a hunter hunting there. The deer get educated on the corn. A couple of deer come in, they seeing their family members get shot off the corn, wounded off the corn. So now corn is just bad juju. So now the way, when I say I bait and I hunt over corn, I use that bait in the perfect part of that property, usually on a stump that's rotten that I've been soaking in solar salt for years. Throw some corn on it. I get inventory throughout the summer. A deer know where it is. It just becomes a community scrape of the property, right? It's your center hub, wherever that is. So where you put that bait is very, very important. How you access, how you get out of there. I don't know where the hell I was going with that.
Prevailing winds probably too.
I mean, yeah, there's so much, but I was saying I use that bait, even if I bait during the season, I'm hunting around it. I'm using that bait as I know there's going to be does and young bucks there. I know mature bucks are going to be circling downwind. I know they're going to enter it from here if they come. So you kind of use it to figure out how to hunt the deer. And I know there's a bait pile at the spot over there. Or if I'm hunting this public, I know there's 40 fucking bait piles along the whole property line of every private property line. So you have to find those bait piles so that you know how to hunt that property. So it basically turns into how to hunt around bait piles around here. And it just gets obnoxious because nobody knows how to do it right. So all you're doing is educating deer.
And that's one of the things.
The biggest thing, before I forget, sorry.
Oh, you're
but
good.
the biggest thing, you're changing the normal travel patterns of these deer. You're totally messing it up. I mean, what we're hunting around here is 90% browse. So then you put a pile of gold nuggets in the middle of that property. Now, instead of doing a normal browse pattern or out to that hayfield or wherever to Mrs. Smith's clovers, they're going to hit that bait, and then they're going to go and they're going to, stick around that. And it just messes everything up. Just the natural movement. I mean,
it can change bedding.
And the deer get so smart and they figure cameras out like you wouldn't believe.
So that's kind of one of the things Steve just hit on the point is bedding. Like a lot of the times then they're going to bed near that bait pile because they know that it's right there. So then your access point is hard.
And we'll think about it this way. What does every guy, Steve and I were just talking about this the other night. What does every guy do the second they get a picture of a big buck on that camera? They run in there and they start trimming shooting lanes, putting up a stand, putting out salt licks, putting out whatever feed they legally can, trying to keep like that buck's going to stay on that one trail that he just walked by every night because, that's typical hunter.
Right.
So then he wants to bait that spot. So now he's going to go in there as often as he can because around here you dump a 50-pound bag of corn, dude, it could get cleaned up in a day and a half. If turkeys come in, you're screwed. So then they're going to go in there every other day, every couple days. I mean, you go to the Shagbark local feed store on a Friday or Saturday, dude, they got pallets of corn out front because nobody wants to walk to the back. They sell so much freaking corn.
Really?
Like it's obnoxious, dude. And what's corn now? $18 a bag. When I was a kid, it was like
$4.99 we used to pay for a bag of corn.
Yeah, it's almost $18-19.
So let me ask you this. So if you're going to go in and out, do you think, can't that help? Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around it because I'm not in a bait zone. I would think if I could go in, say, every day and drop a small bucket of corn and then leave, and then go in and drop a small bucket of corn, then leave, then every day I'm going in, dropping a bucket of corn, and then one day I go in, drop a bucket of corn, and get my tree. Am I conditioning the deer that they know that they get used to my ground scent?
You're training them that you're not a
threat, right?
So that's the biggest key, and that's what I do, whether I'm baiting or not. When I go into a property and it's not season, I'm acting like just an obnoxious Drew walking through the woods. I don't give a shit about scent. I got my dog with me 100% of the time. I'm just acting like a normal person because deer around here I wouldn't say we're suburban. We're not suburban here, but we're definitely not in the middle of nowhere compared to parts of the country. But deer, they know a threat. They know there's a person who's a threat and that's a non-threat, right? So if you're sneaking through the woods, scouting and just sneaking like a little ninja, they're going to pick up on that. Like, what's this creep doing? So when you're baiting, you also have to get in the mentality. You have to do it. If it's every other day, it's got to be at the same time.
Right. So what about the exit? So you come in obnoxious,
that's the hardest
whistling
part.
Or whatever, making noise, and then you leave. I mean, can you condition the deer to sit there and they pretty much watch and listen to you come in, and they watch and listen to you leave, and then they know, okay, he's gone, and then they come out and eat.
Yeah.
Now when you go into hunt, they hear you come in and they don't hear you leave.
Well, that's the tricky part. So what we used to do in work, and I've done this in hunting scenarios, is you have a buddy with you. You go together. One girl crawls up the tree. One starts monkeying around at the base. You all good, bro? Yep, I'm good.
Yeah,
you're virtually bait hunting. I mean, bait hunting for deer. That's virtually what you're doing.
Exactly.
But like when I was a kid, dude, you could bait and you could just, you could suck so many deer in because all the older generation, my dad's generation, looked at us young kids baiting like we were doing something wrong, and they'd push our buttons. You guys are cheating, blah, blah. Well, fast forward 5, 10, 15 years later, guess who's at the feed store getting corn? Those same guys, because they realized. But when I was a kid and when everybody wasn't baiting, good God, does it work? Yeah. But once everybody starts baiting, it's it's a whole different world.
It's almost a sense where, like, even if you don't want to bait, you have to, because you're gonna lose your bucks. Even if you can't kill a buck on a bait pile, you're gonna lose all your does to the neighbors.
Yeah.
And when you lose your does, you're gonna lose your bucks. So you basically have to keep corn there just to keep deer on you.
Right. Keep them interested.
But then you're not. But the problem is then your neighbor has 150 pounds of bait out there, so they're getting rid of the competition where you're trying to instill competition, and so they'll come in and hit your pile first because they know that it's going to disappear, but then they're going to go to that pile after, right?
It's exactly the way I look at public land. I look at the public land piece. I go, where in the hell is the worst, helliest spot on this spot in this piece that nobody's going to go? I want the hellish, nastiest, thickest, most disgusting spot or the hardest spot to get to. Same thing with baiting. So I know all those deer are going to go to the neighbors. That's why I said you got to scout and find those, because then you're going to hunt the deer going to that or hanging and living around that. So if there's a property right next door to me, I won't even bait mine, because what's the point? You're just wasting money.
So now you just hunt his and save the pennies.
Yeah. Because he's not going to kill that much. It's a freak accident if he's going to kill a mature buck with his head in a feeder at 3 p.m. around here. I mean, it's.
Yeah. I mean, what just came to my head is like, when I take bait out of it, everybody's got a hard on for food plots. Everyone wants to put a food plot on their property, right? And I'm a big bedding guy. So if the neighbor wants to have food plots, that's okay, because that buck is going to spend more time in my bedding in the daylight than he is in his food plot in the daylight. Right. So you can feed him and he can spend all night in your food plot, and you can all the trail cameras. He's going to be back on me, back in my bedding when the sun's up and it's legal shooting light.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same thing with the neighbor's corn pile.
The shittiest part is what it did to our buck to doe ratio. So what are the first deer that are going to come to a bait site?
A doe.
Well, even before that, you're going to have little Spike Dick and his brother Spike and his brother 4 Point and his brother 6. And then you're going to have Buttonhead, and then you're going to have the does. So you have the little community of younger deer, and you watch a pile. You watch those does. Like, everyone puts a camera on the bait. Deer ain't coming here till half hour after dark. Yeah, bullshit. For an hour, they're back behind bait, circling it, watching it, just like a bear, dude. But the problem with it was, back when it became legal, I don't know what year it was. I think it was 2012 around here. Don't quote me on that. I don't know when it was, but
your little fact checkers out there get you.
Yeah. When the second they made it legal, it just made it so appealing. Okay, so now you have Bob and Joe, who are hunting buddies, and they live up in northern Connecticut. They're like, hey, Bob, guess what? We can just go buy a bag of corn down in Land Zone 12, knock on a door, and dump it in Lay's backyard and just hammer on some does or some deer. All right, let's do it, Joe. And they go and they do. So that it made it so popular hunt down here because you can bait. So it just made it more appealing. We had a flood of hunters. When I was a kid, running around here, I could put a camera out with apples, or we used to have a Ziploc bags of corn. And dude, we would have 4 to 5 deer in the 4 to 5 8-year age class. You'd have that unicorn of the 6 to 7-year-old buck who just randomly shows up. And then you have a bunch of little shit bags, your Spikes, your 4 Points, your 6s, your does. Now, do the same exact thing on the same properties. You're lucky to get 1 3.5-year-old buck.
Everything's does.
Because all the younger age structure, the deer got wiped out. All the Spikes, all those 4 Points, all the deer. So now all those 1, 2s, and 3s that were growing up to be those 4s and 5s in these bachelor groups of nice, solid Connecticut trophies, they're not there.
Huh, so that's funny. You brought up a serious point. I never even thought of it like that.
You all watch that. I'm talking, and this isn't just me. This is the way I grew up was, I have permission on this property and that property, and I share it with 4 to 5 buddies. And then our other buddy got this property and that property. We're closing in, and then it's backed up to this state land, or we got this state land and we would always try to find private land access to get into that state land. So we'd have these giant chunks that we're all sharing. I'm talking 10 to 15 buddies sharing camera data. We're all seeing this. So it's not like it's just my cameras. Like the 1s and 2s and 3-year-olds, fuck, they barely have a chance because they're the first ones on bait.
Was the time frame the same? I don't pay attention to this because I'm not really in zone 11 or 12. The time frame of baiting, was it the same time they did the replacement tags and the earn a buck tag too? Because that's a whole nother problem there, because
well, that's
it's not
added. Yeah. So when
so
they
it's
had
not
opened
like,
the baiting, they had also done replacement tags and earn a buck tags at the same exact
so
time.
now it's not like a guy can go to this bait zone, 2 buck tags with the bow, another buck tag with the rifle, and he's done with bucks. I mean, he can shoot three does and get another buck tag, 3 more does, get another buck tag.
Well, here's the fucked up part about our January season, where you can still bait on private land. You can bait private land here September 15th to January 31st. So you have your 2 either sex tags for your archery season, 2 antlerless. And then, just like you were saying, you can keep replacing those. So you shoot your 2 bucks. All right. Then you shoot your 2 does. You can shoot another 3 does, bring the head in, get another earn a buck tag, shoot another 3 does. So you have unlimited buck tags, right? And then you got guys sharing heads. That's the other problem, because when you check them in, sometimes they take the head, sometimes they don't. Got guys cutting off other does' heads, bring them in.
Go to road kills.
Snip an ear.
But then the problem is, then in January, you're allowed to use. So if it's January 2024, you're allowed to use you get an antlerless and an either sex tag for January, right? And then you're allowed to use your fall tags too. You can use and then you can keep doing the earn a buck thing. So it's basically unlimited. You can kill unlimited bucks as long as you keep hammering does.
And they just want you to get rid of them.
Yeah,
but the deer is not what it used to be. The population is not half of what it used to be.
No, I don't think the population was touched. I think just the age class of deer that were targeted were messed with.
Because that goes back to the 75% that you were talking about before.
Right. Yep, mortality rate.
So it makes it a lot harder. I just think it's kind of crazy because, like, when you drive around nowadays, I remember the days of driving around and there was 100 fields that you would go by in a night and they would all have 10, 15 deer in it. And then those days are just they're not existent anymore. And I don't know if it's a population control thing or it's a population like invade where they have houses in these areas now or whatever, and they're pushing those deers back into deeper woods and we're just not seeing them as much.
No, I think it has a lot to do with the amount of hunters and society and technology. I mean, think of it when we were a kid. Dude, we literally had to I rode my fucking bicycle everywhere I could to hunt with my bow strapped to the back. We bummed rides everywhere until we could afford our first truck. And then we had to go and go and go. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have anything electronic. Literally go in the woods and just figure it out. We had to knock on doors. My buddy, in high school, we drove to our cabin in Pennsylvania by ourselves. We were 16, 17 years old. We just, think of it now. Hey, man, open up your maps on your phone.
Yeah.
Yep, you should start here. I hunted there last year. Yep. And then you're going to go here, check out this spot, hunt here. And then boom, the technology, cell cams with your maps, your computer. I mean, think about it, dude. When we were working on trucks, you're like, oh man, I'm not sure how to do this. Okay, let's go inside, start up the computer, log on, get on YouTube. You're talking an hour, remember it, and then run back outside to the garage and fix it.
Right.
Like, just such a difference. And that's what I think. It's just,
no, you're
so much easier to access and know where you're going. And how many times did we go up to like a station piece? We're like, oh, I don't know. Is this? Did you see a sign? Did you see a sign? Yeah. And then we had to go back to the town hall and pull up records on a paper map. Dude, nobody knows how to read a paper map.
No, and it's funny is me and Steve talk about this all the time and how readily available these resources are, and like if you took, and we say this and it's probably pretty redundant, but like if you took away cell cameras or cameras in general, like Delaware just banned or is in the process of banning cameras, and one of the things is like if you took those away, I think that 65 to 75% of the people that are in the woods today could not kill an eighth of the amount of deer that they've killed in past seasons if you took away the electronics that they were able to use. Where in meaning is that they don't have the woodsmanship that some of us had been raised around and had and learned from, or the resources that we did.
Talking about with I joke all the time. You go on YouTube and it's like, and I talk to customers all day, every day, email, social media, phone, you name it. The only thing people are concerned about and want to talk about and teach is climbing a tree. Nobody is on there talking about hunting. how to hunt, like woodsmanship. Trevor, that's how we grew up. Steve, we all had, because we learned. We just how did we learn? We just spent as many hours in those woods as we possibly could, and we didn't just learn how to understand deer. We learned to understand the ecosystem that the deer live in, that we're intruding in. So it's like when we went hunting when we were kids, we didn't say, all right, Joe, hey bro, you want to go squirrel hunting or crow? No, we just went. We took a 22 or a shotgun. We went animal hunting.
And this is the thing too, and it's funny, and you know how fucked up the industry actually is that there's a lot of people that regurgitate a lot of information that they don't even, they literally regurgitate what they've learned on podcasts or YouTubes or so on and so forth, and they're out there selling products. But in all reality, if they were to whip out their, you know, their album of all of the stuff that they've done, whether it was hunting, fishing, trapping, whatever the case may be, it's literally nothing. They've killed a handful of animals, they've caught a handful of fish, and now they're out there regurgitating information that they've heard somewhere, and they're really not even sportsmen or woodsmen. Like, and it's sad.
Yep. Me and Drew have spent some time around the campfire the last week contemplating the universe, and that's basically where this podcast comes from. But like, I mean, it's anybody that knows Drew and listen to the beginning of this podcast, he's a fucking killer, right? He's killed more fucking deer than fucking God, right? There's so many fucking people out there. Like you said, they're professional tree climbers, and they want to teach you how to use the saddle and how to use sticks and how to get up a tree. That's all you know how to fucking do, is get up a tree. You're not killing anything.
But the biggest thing is
you're an arborist.
They know, they may be an expert on climbing that tree, but do they have the experience of how that gear makes sense and correlates to actually killing deer?
No.
Or having a successful end goal of killing something? Like they all these guys, this is the best gear, the best. Well, why? What have you done with that gear besides climb trees?
This is how I do it. Well, what's your fucking result? You can get up the tree. Then what do you do once you get up?
So this is funny, and I know, you know, this is
not funny
at
all.
Well, this is
terrible.
It's crazy because I know, and it's nuts to talk about, but like, in all reality, there is a ton of companies, and one of them being the guys that we work with, that literally the proof is in the pudding, where they have a team like Latitude. Those guys are killers also, and they sell products, and they have the people that are backing them and kill deer, and you know, just like Drew. But and I'm not talking about any of you guys or them. I'm talking about the people that do not have the backing that they have.
The sad part to me, the saddest part, is that it's the celebrity endorsed bullshit. So you take, for instance, I'm not talking down Trophy Line. I love those guys. I'm very good friends with a lot of them. Owner Sean, like, they're all cool dudes. They help me and I help that. Like, we work together as competitors, right? Just like Matt from LM. But the second they signed on Levi Morgan, game over. I mean, you have Tether that has sucked up every single celebrity. They were paying girls that have YouTube channels $6,000 to $7,000 to $8,000 a year just to wear their stuff. It's like me. I've never ever once in my life paid anybody to use my products. Not one. But the second you have Levi Morgan step up there, the sad part is, what's every kid like us when we were growing up going to look up to and go, well, Levi Morgan says Matthews and Trophy Line's the best, so it has to be. Levi Morgan's such a good target shooter and such a good hunter that if he's using it, it has to be the best. Just like when Duck Dynasty shot Benelli their whole lives because it's the best gun that ever been created on this planet, right, as a shotgun. Okay, so now what they switched to? Mossberg. Mossberg is our first gun because it was the cheapest gun you could ever get.
I'm still using a Mossberg.
I love Mossberg. I got both Benelli and Mossberg. You know what I mean? The second you get that celebrity endorsing that product, now Drew gets pushed to the bottom. I know I'm a better hunter and a better killer than all of them, better woodsman than all of them combined, but they're going to stick out because they hired that celebrity. So instead of me putting $500,000 into my business and building this beautiful shop, if I had bought Levi Morgan, where would I be today?
Right.
Well, well, the other ridiculous part, and I know that this is crazy, but like a lot of these companies, and one of the things that me and Steve talk about is there's a lot of people out there that literally are just looking for a handout. Like there was somebody recently that literally went online and said, if They literally went online and said, any company that wants to send me a product can send me a product and I'll do a review, and I promise not to give you a bad review on it. So you're really...
I get those emails every day.
But really? Like, I don't understand it.
Somebody has a YouTube channel that they want your gear, but they want it for free, which I get it. If they bought all the gear, it'd be expensive. But no, I don't give
you
any
want
gear
somebody to use your gear because they believe in it and they like it and they want to use it.
Right.
But let me jump in here real quick before we get too far away from my thought. I don't see a huge problem with the celebrity endorsement as much. I mean, I'll tell you God's honest truth. Growing up, huge Michael Waddell fan.
Huge.
All I wanted to wear was real tree camo. I don't give me mossy oak. I ain't wearing it. I'm wearing real tree camouflage like Michael Waddell. But the point is, Michael Waddell kills a lot of fucking deer. So it's obviously it works one way or the other. And you can say that about any gear, like Levi Morgan. Like if Levi Morgan's going to kill a deer no matter what saddle he's in. Right. But the point is, the saddle he's in obviously works if he's using it, right? The problem that I see are these nobodies on social media. You're on a Facebook group and somebody asks about a product that they want to use. And you see these piss and match and these arguments about these guys saying, oh, I only use this saddle or these sticks and da-da-da. And then you stalk the person out, right? You click on their page. You got to scroll back to 2018 to see a picture of them with anything fucking dead, right? The guy's mobile hunting 7 Saturdays a year. You know, meanwhile, you got guys that are hanging and banging 20 days in a row, and they're getting in pissing matches or getting, you know, talked down on by guys that aren't even really using the product. They're not really killing shit, but they've got the strongest opinion on what's best and trying to tell everybody else what they should use. And they don't even have the experience or the success to be giving that kind of advice.
But that's just social media in a whole, right? Like what the information that you're reading, it's up to you to do the actual research,
right?
And to go other places and figure out if what you're reading is true, right? But I totally get what you're saying, and it's sad, but that's the way the industry. It's a business, right? Like I can remember back before saddle hunting was even a thing, back in the day. It was saddlehunterforum.com, and everybody was on there sharing information. Where do you get this? How do you do this? How do you tie that knot? Get this rope? How do you do all this stuff? And it was cool as hell. But the second it turned into this huge marketing business, actual industry, then it turned into, us real guys owning these companies were still on there. And then the second it turned into this pissing match of whose gear is better than what, and that's all they talked about. Steve and I were just talking about this. All the actual guys that own the companies like me, we stepped back because we couldn't stand the pissing bullshit, the whiny, immature stuff on social media. It was like nobody was actually asking valid questions. It was just, what's the best? Well, is Ford better than Chevy?
Right.
It's the same thing.
It's your personal preference, and that's what a YouTube review is. It's showing what it does from A to Z, from the box to the end result. What does it do? And you're not really giving an opinion. You're just reviewing what it does, right? And that's the importance of it. When you had forums, like you just said, and I owned a forum or was owner of a forum, and one of the things is that forums were more in-depth questions and to break down what it was. And there was never belittling of one another. And that, You know what I'm saying? And with social media, when you have social media like Facebook, Instagram's not as bad, but Facebook, when you get into some of these groups and stuff, is that these people are, it's not 100 guys that are talking back and forth on a forum. It's hundreds of thousands of people that are looking and seeing this, and everybody wants to be a big shot, and everybody wants to give their opinion, which is fine, and I understand that. But one of the problems with social media is this: hunting and fishing or outdoors, there is no checks and balances. We were all sports guys. Steve was a quarterback. Drew, you played football and stuff like that, right? Like your sports teams and stuff.
We were running some 40-yard dashes the other night at midnight, though.
I played soccer halfway through freshman year, and I said, F this. I'm going to work on the farm and hunt.
Okay, so with that, you're
still pretty quick, bro.
Yeah, but you understand, and we all understand what a team is. There's checks and balances. there's always somebody on your team that's better than you, right? Where the captain, oversees the team and tells them, all right, and he's the best player, right? And you're always looking up to somebody to be the best person. Well, with hunting, fishing, and trapping, it's a sport against yourself. So you think that you're the fucking man because you shot a deer or caught a big fish or whatever the case may be, and you're the best in your own team, right? Well, when they get on social media, now the only person to check and balance them are the people on social media. So they can say or do whatever they want and have the opinion that they want because there's nobody there to tell them different other than on fucking social media. You know what I'm saying? So it's a team against it's the outdoors is it's against yourself. And there's no checks and balances of a team. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. I know it's a rambling aspect of it, but
I can add to that. It's kind of like, say you're like the best hunter in your town, right? That's like being the superstar on your local football team, right? You're the superstar. You're the best hunter in your town. You're the superstar on the football team. Then you go to college. Well, guess what? Everybody on your team was a superstar where they came from. Now it's a college team full of superstars. You know what I mean? But I think the big thing is like, you have to stay humble enough to always try to find somebody that's better than you and have that, crave more knowledge and learn from more people. You know what I mean? Like me and Drew sitting around the campfire, like all we're doing is talking about this, talking about that. What do you think about this? Just picking each other's brains. Or like you touched upon it a little bit, the stuff that Latitude's doing right now on YouTube. I don't know if you've caught it yet, Trev, but like I watch each one of them like 5 times. Just phenomenal scouting intel. Like they do a hill country one, they've done a swamp one. Dude, I'll watch a couple of them 2 or 3 times and pick up a new thing every single time that I watch it because I'm always trying. It doesn't matter how much I think I know or how good I think I am. I'm always trying to learn the next thing or pick up something that I can adapt or try this season.
That's what my dad taught me my whole life. He said, surround yourself with people that are better and smarter than you.
Right. And I think a lot of people they don't want to be around someone better than them. They want to feel like they're the best, but you're only going to get better by putting yourself around people that are better than you.
And anybody that I've taught how to hunt, they get into hunting and the first thing they want to do is kill a big mature buck. That's their mission. I'm not saying everybody, but most guys, or say they've been hunting for a while and then they just seriously got into it and now it's an addiction. They just want to kill that big buck. Well, how do you learn how to kill that big buck? You kill a lot of deer.
Right.
How to deer hunt.
You got to learn how to
kill a buck.
Yeah. You got to learn how to kill deer.
Yep.
Well,
going back. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, going back what Drew said, like, what his dad had taught him. My father had said something very similar to me. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so you can listen twice as much as you talk. Because to learn from other people. And the thing is that everybody in. I know I keep going back to the social media thing, but in all reality, where I get pissed about it is that it's really a dick swinging competition where everybody shares their pictures. It drives me nuts because they all seem to be better and they're not taking in information. They're trying to point out how good they are.
Yeah.
And they're putting out bad information instead of sitting back and learning from the people that they should be learning from. And I'm not saying learn from us. I'm saying the right fucking people. Like, instead of trying to say that you're better than everybody, just learn from everybody who you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to, and I get irritated.
I swear, the best way, and I just recently found this out, the best way, like Steve and I were talking about this, we're on such a experience, high level, whatever you want to call it, our deer hunting, we take it so seriously and we've been doing it for so long that sometimes we get to a point where we overthink everything.
Too much.
Everything. And we're just trying to be like you and fishing. We were talking this deer hunt. And it's just like sometimes, so what I found, I just taught my buddy, he had gun hunted his whole life. And he finally said, I want to learn how to deer hunt, like bow hunt. I want to bow hunt and but it's not going to be like my uncle where he would say, go sit in that stand this day and shoot whatever. He said, I want to learn everything about bow hunting and I want to do everything myself with your help. So he had a big farm, went there, taught him. And the coolest part was, in the beginning, it's all just normal, simple stuff. It's like teaching them this, that, but it's hard for me to go back to basics, Same thing when I'm teaching people how to climb a tree. I can climb up with nothing upside down and blindfolded, but not everybody can. So, first year was basic. He did great, killed a couple deer. Then the second year rolls around, and now he's absorbed so much information. We'll be scouting or doing something. He'll say something that at first just sounds absolutely retarded. Like basic and stupid. Like at first you want to say, just shut up. And then you start thinking about it. You're like, dude, actually, you're right. I think you're right. That's a really, really good idea. Holy shit. Okay. Drew, step back, rewind, settle down a little bit. He just said something so basic that makes so much sense, and let's do that.
Not even so much basic. It's just simple. You simplify it.
Exactly.
Not overcomplicate it.
Right.
Well, the thing is that we, us as, avid outdoorsmen and been doing this for, 20 years. I mean, literally 20 years, right? I mean, like we started at 12, whatever, but we've been in it before then. And literally, like, we are so set in our ways and believing what we think is 100% to the T what it's supposed to be. And these new guys come in and they have a different thought process because they're trying to be at that. So, like, it was like us at 16 to 21 where we were just crazy, stupid, dumb kids running around in tree stands not knowing what we were doing. And these guys are now mature guys coming into it and have kind of half of a brain when they're doing those crazy, stupid things and they come up with these crazy ideas.
Dude, I think about it all the time because when I was a kid and, just started hunting on my, my own tree stand, not sitting with dad anymore. And even the years before that, when on opening day, man, I was going to go sit in a buddy stand next to my dad and watch him shoot a deer. The only thing we cared about the night before was the temperature in the morning because we needed to know if we had to wear 1 pair of socks or 2 pairs of socks because we didn't know how cold it was going to be. We never checked the fucking wind.
No.
I didn't know what fucking thermal was.
No.
It didn't matter. We knew what stand we were going. It was the opening day stand. We were going to it no matter what the wind direction was. We didn't know what the thermal was. It was just, it's going to be 27 in the morning. You better bring some hand warmers and an extra pair of socks. It's going to be cold. That's all that mattered. And now I lay in bed at night, checking every single app I have because one says the wind's doing this, the other one says this, the other one says I'm averaging out the winds between 4 different apps to try to figure out what I think it's really going to do. Then I have to predict my thermals based on that wind and wind speed, and then the barometric pressure, and then maybe some cell camera pictures and historical data. And like, it's like over analyzing everything, trying to make an educated guess. And it's like, dude, it was only, I don't know, 50, I can't do math on my head, less than 20 years ago. I didn't care about any of that.
Like my wife, every night she picks out her clothes for work the next day. She's a teacher. So during the fall, any night she asks me, what's the weather going to be tomorrow, babe? And I'll tell her exactly what the weather's going to be. Whether it's a high pressure, low pressure system. Ask me when it's off season. I have no clue.
No clue.
No clue.
And it's so funny that you guys say that and you bring it up in conversation because they, like my dad and my brother, they still hunt the old school style where they have one property with 3 deer stands and they pick out those deer stands. And like, I'll go and hunt with my dad or my brother once or twice a year and I'll go hunt there and I'll sit in the old tree stand that I sat in and I shot my first deer out of and I've shot a metric pile of deer out of, and I'll sit in that fucking deer stand and it will bother me that the wind is going in the wrong direction, and I'll be there and I'll be like, this fucking sucks, I'm not gonna see a fucking deer. But if you rewind 10 years, I was shooting deer out of that deer stand like it was my job, like not even thinking or even knowing what thermals and winds and scent and you sit there and you're like, are you fucking kidding me right now? I cannot believe I'm here. No, but I would go because I wanted to hunt with my dad and my brother in the scenario of that we did, revolving. And my dad would shoot a doe or whatever. And I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? Why'd you shoot that doe? Like, the wind's all wrong. And he shot the stupid doe and it went down here. And like, now there's not going to be a buck coming. But like, in all reality, that just changed the switch just changed not that long ago, and I get irritated for sitting in that deer stand. But
sometimes I found like my story with teaching my buddy. Sometimes you just have to just stop giving any F's. Just not care. I swear I've killed 90% of these deer on these walls by just getting so frustrated and saying fuck it and just going in. Going as deep as I can, saying screw the wind, screw the thermals. I don't care. I'm going in there. I'm gonna get so close to him. I'm gonna kill him. And I did. killed so many deer downwind. I've killed so many deer exactly where I thought they would never come from. I've killed deer just blowing into, well, not blowing in, but creeping in. I mean, but just saying, screw it. Instead of backing off that 50 yards, I go another 50.
I think sometimes, I don't know about all these deer, but like definitely in the rut, you can forget the wind, forget the thermals. Ruts going, bucks are stupid. You can just get away with murder.
Yeah, November, I don't care.
Right. Early season's a little different, but going back to like what Trev was just saying, like it's, I don't know about happy 4th of July, everybody, because I think this comes out July 5th.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody still has their fingers when they're listening to this. But so it's July 3rd, right? I can tell you right now the exact stand my old man will be sitting on opening day of rifle season this November.
My dad, September 15th, will be in the same stand.
He will be in that tree no matter what. Where I'm going to be opening day, I won't know until either the night before or maybe the morning of.
Mm-hmm. Or how many times?
But I bet you my dad kills a deer at open in the morning.
Let me ask you
by 7 a.m.
How many times have you literally been? So this is my motto. I have a couple options where I want to go, target areas. Sometimes I won't decide until I literally get in my truck and I'm driving. So it's either take a left or take a right. And what I do is I just follow my gut. Same thing when I'm actually in the woods and hunting. I'm like, all right, just trust your gut. Do I go farther? Do I stay back? Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go northeast, south, or west? I'm so in tune with my gut. I found that your gut doesn't lie.
No,
obviously it could. You could get screwed in so many ways, but every time you just trust your gut. Like you try to overanalyze it so much that sometimes you just have that little gut feeling. Most times it's wrong, but.
And it's crazy because like sometimes I get upset at myself, like even mobile hunting. Like I'll go into a property, and one of my favorite things to do, because I like to go into a piece of property and e-scout it, and then I go in there and I start walking in there and I'm like, all right, this looks halfway decent, and then you keep going and then you're like, all right, this looks halfway decent. Oh, this looks all right. Maybe I should go a little bit further, and then you're like, oh fuck, the sign was all back there. And you're like, I think I just blew my spot. Like, I think I'm done. But, like, in all reality, you should walk back that 150 yards to the last sign and go up in the tree. But I'm thinking, no, I already walked past there, so the deer already know. Like, and then you get irritated and you're like, fuck this. When 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have just sat on the ground at the first piece of deer shit that I found and the first trail and hunted it and probably would have shot a deer. You know what I'm saying?
Well, a lot of it is like the information that has been fed to us. So, 90% of the freaking information that is fed down our throats is all about Midwest hunting. And us New England boys all know that there's no comparison. We're hunting the same species of deer, yes, but they're completely different animals because the habitat is completely different. The age structures are completely different. The buck to doe ratio is different. The food, everything is different. So all we've been taught, every magazine is about food plots in the Midwest. Every magazine is about buying leases. Every magazine is about, DIY public land. It's just, there's so much information about how to hunt out there. And now there's a couple of guys that are known for hunting New England that are finally coming about and are getting some information about it, but it's just a whole world. And now it's like nobody wants to watch a TV show of deer hunting unless a 200-inch deer gets killed.
Right.
So where are those 200-inch deer getting killed? They're not all getting killed on public land. Public land is flooded with hunters. They're all on private leases, private farms, and they're like talking about how to hunt deer. And to us, that's totally irrelevant.
Right.
You can talk long about how a big buck moves through ag fields and fingers and ditches and stuff out west. I worked in the Midwest. I lived out there working, killing deer. So I know all about it. I'm not just coming up with this, but it's nothing like New England.
Right. Well,
I'd love to see them in a mountain laurel patch.
But here's the other thing I think gets overlooked being in New England with smaller parcels of property.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of touched on it earlier. You might have the food source, but you don't have the bedding.
Yeah.
You might have the bedding, but you don't have the food source. You might not have either.
Right.
You might have a neighbor with a food source and a neighbor with bedding, and you're just in the middle.
Right.
So it's not like, so you watch some of these YouTube videos and they're great. Like I said, I watch them, I consume them from the time I get home from work till the time I go to bed because I can't get enough knowledge. But you have to pick them apart and apply them to where you hunt because you don't always have the ability to even scout that bedding or scout that food source. You only get certain pieces of the puzzle that you're able to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't make it easy by any means. Like you really have to work extra hard to make what you have work.
And like deer, right? So when you read an article about deer in the Midwest, you take just like you say, take pieces from it, right? Take the valid information, but yeah, I don't know where we're going with that, but
You have to, but you have to apply it to your piece of property and how you do it. Because hunting here in New England is a whole different beast. I mean, hunting the mountains, hunting, our thermals, the ridges, the swamps, the mountain laurels, the
Low
bedding,
quality.
I mean, it's totally different than anything that is kind of getting pushed down our throats, where the information is just not out there, and it's literally just going out there and understanding it. And the other thing is, like, if you're not a mobile hunter with an e-bike, you're not going to kill a deer. Like, that's the instinctual things that are being pushed on us as outdoorsmen.
Yep.
Yeah. If you don't have a 10,000 acre farm pristine or a lease, you're not going to kill a big deer, is what it said.
Right. And it's like there's a time and a place for every kind of situational hunting. When I'm on public land and there's or town land, there's a ton of walking trails. I'm walking like a walker. I've killed deer walking like a walker. I mean, a little tiny property, we all know we're going to tiptoe around. There's only so much you can do. When you're hunting 50 acres, you could booger that up real quick.
Right.
So when you're hunting 5, you could really booger it up. So it's a whole different world when you go to a 1,000 acre public land piece compared to a 5 acre private land piece.
It's nuts. And I think, it's all situational.
I feel really bad for newer hunters, to be honest with you, because
they're so confused.
Our generation, like I said before, when I grew up, I didn't even check the wind. Right. You just got in a stand and you killed fucking deer. And then all of a sudden people started talking about playing the wind. So we're like, okay, maybe there's something behind this. Let me start paying attention to the wind. So then I paid attention to it and probably still sat in the same fucking tree. It just didn't matter, but at least I knew which way the wind was blowing. Right. And then you start noticing, oh yeah, when the wind does blow that way, I don't see shit. But when it blows this way, I see more deer. Maybe there's something behind this playing the wind thing.
Yeah, because that's where the deer live.
So you start doing that, right? And then all of a sudden, Mark Drury starts talking about thermals. And you start trying to figure out what the fuck that meant. And that took forever to even understand thermals. Well, now you kind of get a concept of thermals. But the point of it is, we were able to piece it together little by little, and we would add the playing the wind. We'd add thermals, and then we'd add a little piece to this, and then then barometric pressure came into play, and then moon phases came into play, and we just kind of pieced it together little by little by little by little. If you were starting right now and you were trying to teach your buddy to play the wind and thermals and check the barometric pressure, but don't do this on this day, but on this, no, that's only in the early season. But then in November, you do it like completely different. Like, dude, there's almost too much information out there right now. Like, I just feel bad for somebody trying to learn it all in one shot.
Yeah, that's right. And I tell people all the time, I swear trail cameras sometimes make me a worse hunter because you're so focused on that camera. But think of it. So everybody thinks right away you need all the best gear. Think about the gear we used when we were kids. Oh my God. But you take that camera, it's only getting a view of what percentage of those woods, right? This tiny little angle. So that deer can walk behind it, sideways. So you take that camera and everybody thinks like that is the truth. So and it's like you go to trust that camera so much, like it's telling the God's honest truth. Well, like they did that study where they hung a normal camera at eye level of the deer. They had a mature buck staring at the camera. So we've all gotten that picture. They also had a video camera up elevated above it on video capture. So you get that one picture, then the 30-second delay, the buck's gone on the camera. On the video camera, it showed him bound back, however far, started blowing nonstop, kept bounding back, blowing, standing there forever, just blowing. You don't get that on the picture camera. So,
I watched that happen last year from a tree stand. I'll show you I got it all on video. I'll show it to you later.
It's like, how do you learn that stuff? Yeah. You just hunt.
Well, and you say the thing is, when you see that trail cam picture, you say, oh, that deer just walked by my camera. No, he just realized that your camera was there and made a clicking noise, and now that deer is in the next county. Mm-hmm. But you would never know that without video camera or understanding what it is.
Or the next 5 times he walks that area, he just skirts the backside of the camera.
Right.
He's not in the next county. He's still there. But you haven't gotten a picture of him in 5 days. So now you think he's gone. He's still doing the same thing. He's just walking around the backside of your camera.
Okay. How about this?
Because you haven't gotten a picture of him.
How about hunting public land? There's a pre-hung tree stand. You set up 15, 20, 30 yards away from it. You watch that nanny doe, that old ass nanny, bitchy nanny doe, walk right by it. She stares right up at the tree stand every single time that she walks by that tree stand because she knows that tree stand's there because she's winded somebody in that tree stand 15 times. And you're 25 yards away from it and you smoke that bitch while she's looking up at the next one.
New Jersey, I worked in Princeton, New Jersey, and those New Jersey deer, all they do is walk around and stare at the sky. So we would hunt, we would be working, shooting in these properties, and there's always a tree stand there because they could still hunt there. And so you'd set up next to the ladder stand, but I'd go an additional 20 feet up. At least I'd be screaming 30, 40 feet up because those deer, you watch them from hundreds of yards away. You're watching them come in the snow and boom, 300 yards away. They're staring at that ladder stand. They walk, boom, they snap up. They're eating on bait with their eyes looking up at that ladder stand.
Are you serious?
They know it, dude. They know it. They just walk around and there could be multiple stands and they're checking everyone. And then you always have that nanny just walking around, just, she goes down to pretend to eat and then she goes, boom, snaps her head back up.
That's funny that you say that because the first time I ever went to Ohio, I had a deer that literally I didn't even move in the tree stand, and I was mobile hunting. I went from I had my hands kind of in my chest pocket, and I literally took my hand out of my chest pocket and went to go grab my bow. I was probably 23 to 25 feet in the air. That deer's neck, I thought he got whiplash. He whipped around so fast and looked up in the tree. Literally.
Baiting. Deer around here, you go hunt, we can hunt around your house, and you'll see the difference, and you come hunt a baited zone. Dude, these deer are all looking up. I never saw that as a kid. We hunted in lockup. My dad would put them 10 feet off the ground, dude.
Yeah. Do you know something else? And one thing and going back on the bait aspect of it, I went and hunted the bait zone. I go down and hunt zones down the Greenwich area a lot with a couple of friends the last couple weeks of the season. Just go down there. We do deer drives on the islands and stuff and fish and whatever else. But I'll go down and spend a couple of days down there. And I went down there and not even knowing, and I didn't even know this, because I'm not a bait guy, but I had a mature buck. Late season, you might get a mature buck on that bait because they're on that feed, right? They've rutted. Now they're trying to pack on the feet so they come back to that bait site.
I always say it's either the first week or the last couple of weeks if you get cold temperatures.
And that's literally what it was like. And I didn't know this, but one of the things, and I learned this after, is that you literally do not want to shoot the buck as it's on the bait pile. You want to get it coming to the bait pile, because if you shoot them on the bait pile, they're so jumpy because they're so used to people being around that bait pile and all the scents and stuff. So literally this buck comes in and gets to the bait pile, and I go to draw back and I go to shoot, and he literally jump stringed me because he was so nervous being in at that bait pile.
You want to know how you solve that? If you hunt with a single pin, you always have when you're hunting over bait and you're trying to kill a smart deer, you have that pin set for 30. Because just like you said, you go draw on him at 10, 20, he's going to bound back to 30 if you can get him to stop, right? So you have your pin ready. Or you just elevationally compensate for it at 20 if he doesn't. But yes, they are so jumpy. It is ridiculous.
That's crazy.
They're in there and they know they shouldn't be there. They know it's not right. And they come in. If you can get a buck to come all the way solid 2 bait around here, they're a freak.
That's wild.
This might not apply to this, but it just reminded me of it. The other night you were saying something when you were working for White Buffalo between shooting them with their head down and their head up.
Yeah.
What was that? Refresh my memory. It was a long night.
Yeah, that was all just shot placement. So when you're shooting deer in the head, so when your gun's zeroed for 100 and you're shooting them at 20 yards, you're aiming, 1.5 2 inches over their head. So that messes with you, right?
Yeah.
So you're basically your crosshairs when they're on bait, you're shooting as if those crosshairs are over its head.
Yeah, you're not on fur,
right? So you always want that deer, you'll whistle on bait, like I can show you in videos. I'll whistle, get them to bring their head up. So if any reason anything goes wrong, all that deer can do is duck their head. If they duck, you miss. They can't go up anymore when they're fully alert. When a deer's head is down on bait and you're aiming for the center of their brain, they can go up 3 feet, right?
Right.
So you have a lot of area where you can mess up. So you'd rather a bullet miss the deer than wound it, obviously. So.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Most people don't really rifle hunt over bait, right? I mean, like, can you rifle bait?
Oh,
yeah, why
God,
can't
yeah.
you?
I mean, but I'm talking these suburban
If you're in
environments.
10 and 11, 11 and 12.
The first deer to bait were the slobs. The biggest deer of that neighborhood is the first one on bait. 180s, 190s, double drops, splits. And that was always the worst because he's the first one on bait. So now you got to break a sweat first thing in the evening because you got to drag his monkey ass off the bait.
Let me ask you this, Drew. I was thinking about it earlier and we kind of got away from it. So you were saying when you're going into eradicate a population, you always shoot.
There's difference between eradication was always like island. It's usually island eradication.
Okay. I was just trying to use a big word.
Eradication means you kill every single last animal. So we would be population reduction.
Okay.
Steve's trying to sound smart as shit. But he's not at all.
Clearly, it didn't work, and I was trying to bullshit people, and it didn't work. So I'm back to dumbass mode. So, anyways, when you're going into reduced population of deer, you were shooting the most mature does first.
Does are always priority. Bucks were say like if you had a group of bucks come in and there were does watching or waiting to come in because they would always hog bait. Sometimes you'd get off and just get down and run the bucks off, or you just wait. But you would never shoot buck. You never prioritize bucks over does. Those are always priority. But in some neighborhoods, it's funny. I've had some weird, shooting off the second story balcony of this lady's house, and she was the best. And in this area, Missouri, we only had a certain amount of bucks we were allocated to shoot. It was mainly does. But she comes up to me, she goes, Hey, honey, can you just do me a favor? I know you're not really supposed to do this, but can you kill every fucking buck, everyone with antlers? Because look at my shrubs. They were just rubbing the shit out of her trees, right? She had amazing landscaping, probably $1 million landscaping. She wanted me to kill the bucks because they were messing up her shrubs.
Did she make you cookies?
Oh, God, yeah. She brought me out heater, like this big heater to put over me, the big cone deck heaters, cookies, tea.
So back to what I was getting at. So what if you were a regular hunter on a piece of private and you're looking to manage the herd to a healthy standards? A lot of those guys, the first ones they're going to shoot are those same does that you would take out first.
So we talking hunting or
hunting? Back to the hunters.
Well, the problem is the first deer they're going to shoot is going to be either the does, the young dumb does, or it's going to be the lesser bucks. Like I have so many private land pieces. One of my best ones that I hunt, I bait. And the kid next to me, a kid got permission on a piece of property that hasn't been hunted since I was a kid. So what does he do? Puts in a 500-pound corn feeder, a ladder stand, and he crossbow hunts off it with a cell cam on it. So he killed my target buck in December when I was in Disney World with his head in the feeder. I shot that deer 3 years ago with my recurve, bounced off his shoulder. So I knew he was not killable on bait. I hunted him all around. He got beat down, dumb, and he fucked up and got shot on bait. What was you asking me?
Well,
the problem with that was, so then when someone starts a bait site, the first deer they're probably going to kill because they want to kill a buck is going to be that 2 to 3 year old. So I had 2 beautiful 2-year-olds that were just your gorgeous Connecticut, amazing, perfect 8-point rack. He killed them both.
Right.
So those are the first deer that get killed.
No, my question was more of the lines where like people that are actually trying to manage their herd for better hunting, bigger bucks, better buck to doe ratios and all that stuff. Trev, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
The screen just went crazy. Those people I think they tend to think they should shoot the oldest does first to make a better herd. But those are the same does that you were shooting first when you were trying to control the population. But is that,
to put it this way, around us, the only way you'd ever be able to control a buck to doe ratio or to establish a herd, if you were gonna do that, you'd all have to be on the same page. Right. Think about all the little private land properties, just like I explained, the deer walked right off the property line, all 3 of them got killed. So it's like you all have to be on the same page if you're going to be shooting the same age class, and you can around here. So my theory is I only shoot what makes me excited, right? So a 3-year-old that's 100-inch 8-point doesn't get me all excited. I don't shoot it.
Speaking of that, Trev, you didn't respond because I think you were on the boat, but the bat phone's going off. I got a trail camera picture of that buck I passed last November.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that is kind of cool because like he was a good buck last year and like there's some hunting pressure over there. So when I got that picture of him this year, it kind of made me smile. Like, yeah, buddy, you made it through the gauntlet. Like nobody else tagged your ass. Like I gave you the pass, but ain't nobody else giving you the pass. So it's kind of cool getting that picture of him the other day.
It's always nice. That's the best part about running cameras this time of year is to see what
Hey, buddy, you made it.
Didn't get hit by cars. That's the other thing in urban hunting. Yeah. But Drew, I got one last question for you, man. We really appreciate you jumping on. But what drives you outdoors, my man?
Just in me, dude. I just say it's in my blood. Just something about it just makes me who I am. But yeah, right now it's just, my motto is step above. I'm just, everything I do, I just want to be a step above, especially with my family, my boys. So my hunting has kind of taken a big step backwards, just my time in the woods compared to before kids. But it's all good because, I got my 3-year-old and 5-year-old. The coolest part the other day, Steve was here. My 5-year-old, it's always, hey, boys, you want to shoot your bows? They got the little kids' bows. Yeah, sure. So they shoot them and, they're just bouncing them off the targets, whatever. This time I walked away from my 5-year-old. I said, and he was shooting the target and he kept shooting. I went back. I said, hey, buddy, you want a little lesson? He goes, yeah. So I gave him a couple of critiques, a couple lessons on exactly just critiquing his form with a longbow. And I walked away and that little dude stood by that target for 15, 20 more minutes, just arrow after arrow after arrow. And it finally clicked with him. And he started drilling the target where he wanted to put that arrow, a pie plate group at 5 yards. It was amazing. So to me, that's what keeps me sane, is just knowing that I'm going to have a future of hunting with those boys and it's going to be cool. So raising them is, that's what keeps me really outdoors now.
That's awesome, man. There's nothing better than that, honestly. The kids, the next generation is why we do all this. That's what, that's why we became who we are. What saved our lives from being schmucks or scumbags or whatever was the outdoors, because we focus so much time on it. So to have those boys do the same thing, it's probably really genuine.
I know we've talked about this. If I didn't have hunting, I don't know if I'd be alive. It's the shit we would have to, because I was always, I never tried coke because I couldn't afford it and I wanted to go hunting in the morning. I didn't want to stay up all night drink. So if I didn't do coke, guys, because I won't hunt.
It's so true though. Like there's a lot of people and there's kids that are, that were my age or whatever, that were into trouble or whatever the case may be. And I was too busy going fishing, too busy going hunting, too busy worrying about, whatever, going trapping or whatever the case may be, because that's what we wanted to do, and I think it honestly saved my life, because I could have been somewhere I probably shouldn't have been. And
I wanted to talk about it earlier too. Was you had brought it up. One of you brought up deer drives. Remember how fun deer drives were, and they still are, but nobody talks about them. Like it's like this
frowned upon.
Dude, we had so much fun driving deer our whole lives with bows, guns, muzzleloaders.
So it's funny is we do a deer camp, or we did do a deer camp prior to COVID. And one of the things that we had talked about doing this year is our deer camp for 2-3 days. And all the boys get together and we do public land deer drives with the muzzleloader late season. Like, it would just be cool to go and do it and have everybody go and just have fun. I mean,
because bow hunting is so when you get so into it, it's so selfish, right? Like
it is.
Mainly do it alone in the woods. So when you get together and do drive, it's like going duck hunting. You just have a fucking blast.
You need that reset and that camaraderie, and I talk about it all the time. Like, I'll have guys on the boat and they'll say, like, why do you hunt or whatever. And they're not a lot of them are hunters, a lot of them are fishermen, and I'll be like, you know what? It's the camaraderie. Like November, at the end of October, November, that's my 2 months or a month and a half to spend by myself in the tree, but there's still camaraderie of bouncing back and forth for the guys, but deer drives, duck hunting, trapping, like that's the camaraderie. That's why I do it. The turkey hunting, the fishing, like that's what I do it for. It's not for, the selfishness of the month and a half that you're doing that, but the camaraderie of it.
Yeah.
I got to add to this because you guys just made me think of it, to tie everything together that we talked about today. And hopefully my dad doesn't get in trouble for this. Hopefully its statute limitations has exceeded, but I wasn't even old enough to hunt by myself. And my dad would throw an orange vest on me and go, follow that wall up there. And when you get to the break, take a left and come back down the hill. And I'll be waiting for you right here. Right. And he was sending me off the bird dog and push deer off that hill to him. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was pretty good at it because he shot a lot of deer doing that, but I didn't know it at the time. I was scouting bedding. I was going up and I was bird dogging through all the thickets and down like whatever trail I could find on my hands and knees to get through that thicket to push those deer back down the hill. So fast forward a couple of years, and I was old enough to have my own rifle and have my own tree stand. And my dad trusted me enough where he asked me where do you want to hunt? Like, where do you want to put your tree stand? Well, I want to go hunt up on that hill because every time I go up there, I push deer off that hill.
Right.
And okay, all right, show me where. So I picked the tree right here. Looks good. So we hung a ladder stand, and opening day, I shot my first buck. And I shot a buck off that tree every opening day for like 5 years. And it was just a magical spot. But now looking back on it with the knowledge I have now, dude, I was hunting the down. There was deer up on that hill for some reason because it was thick, and I always pushed deer off the hill. So I just threw together. There was no pieces to put together. I just knew there was deer up there.
And you're hunting the downwind side of the bedding.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time because I didn't even know which way the wind blew.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can overanalyze that spot and know why it was so successful when I didn't even know why I was having success.
It's like, to me, growing up, I've been mobily hunting since I was 12 years old. Because you know what mobile hunting was to me? It was getting so bored in that tree stand, knowing it's in the stupidest spot, and I'm not tearing this thing down with screw and picks. I would get down and I would still hunt.
Yeah.
And I was mobile all over. I killed more deer on the ground than I ever did in trees. And you learn to take your boots off, walk in your socks, stalk deer. You'll learn more about deer and deer hunting and the whole ecosystem they live in by just still hunting.
And a lot of people don't do it, and that's a northeast thing. Still hunting, tracking. I mean, that's something that we do here that a lot of people don't do in other places.
Right, because like everything you read tells you, stay out of the bedding, stay out of this, no pressure, don't do this. Don't mess up. Well,
those deer don't have anywhere else to go, so you might as well go in there and hunt them. True.
Hey, doesn't get any better than that.
No,
that's right.
It doesn't. Well, boys, I really appreciate Drew. It's been a long time, and we haven't had you on, but I don't think that it's going to be a long time for the next one, honestly. I think that we should do some more of these. I know you got a lot more to talk about, between coyote trapping and these little tiny things that, I think we should do a little bit more podcasting about.
You weren't so busy fishing all the time. You could come up and hang out with us up at camp because we're having camps here all the time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, someone's got to work around here.
Yeah. You.
I only work 6 months out of the year, dude. I can't. It's so tough.
I think you're being a little overzealous there. It's 6 months.
Well, I don't know. What's June 1st to November? What's that? June, July, August, September, October, November. Yeah, it's 6 months.
Oh, he's including November. He's not working November.
So it's 5.
Well, whatever, boys. Maybe I'm just jealous, but come up and hang out sometime. Yeah. We're having a blast.
Well, boys, I appreciate everything. Drew, thanks for joining us, man. And Steve, I don't really, whatever. You'll still be here. But
he basically moved. He's my weekend roommate lately.
Yeah. Is that what it is? That's perfect.
Yeah, we're April got her appendix out, so she's down at her mother's, which is 100 yards from the shop, not even. So we're all staying up here in the camper. I got the boys up here, cousins.
Just boys week, man.
Boys week in the camper.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys, man. Drew, can't wait to have you on again. And I know you boys are going out fishing, so good luck. And for everybody else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.